What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Paint Society right here at home. And we're going to show you today how to fix little rust holes without doing any welding and just using some reinforced body filler. So let's get right to it. Don't overthink it, it's just paint. All right, guys, so a lot of you at home want to do some basic rust repair, and well, for this project we have very tiny little rust holes, and the way we're going to fix it is using reinforced body filler. Now, the correct way to do this is to use metal to weld it in, but a lot of you guys at home just don't have those amount of tools or the knowledge, and you don't have an expensive welder. So we're going to show you today how to go ahead and fix holes just like this for your project, and it will last a good while. And when dealing with holes just like this, you can see that it penetrated through the first layer only. And if we come around to the back side, which we have clear access to, you can see that the secondary layer of metal is completely intact, which is good. The first thing we're going to want to do is sand down to metal. We're going to be using a DeWalt sander and 80 grit. We'll put that on, and what that's going to do is we want to strip it down to metal because we're going to be using a lot of feathering filler in this area, and we want good clean metal in our whole area. So we'll go ahead and strip this whole area down to metal. And we just got through a little bit of stripping. We can see some previous repairs here. We don't know if there's holes under here, but we gotta get this all off. You can see they even bondled right where this hole is. So let's continue to strip and see what we got. All right, and after getting it all down to metal with the exception of a couple little areas, we can see what happened here. So there was a previous dent in this area, and what it looks to be is they use that old-fashioned screw puller where you would drill a screw in and you'd have a puller and you'd pull it, but then it'd leave a hole, and then it looks like they filled it with some sort of body filler. Doesn't even look like the correct body filler for even doing it like this. The same could have happened here. They could have made a hole here and then it rusted out. I'm not sure. The only downside here is I can't get behind here to clean the rust. So what we're going to do is the best thing we can do right now is just use a wire wheel, and we'll clean up all these holes, and then we'll go ahead and proceed with the body filler. Okay, so all of our holes right here, they're pretty tiny, and that can take filler. This one right here, it's too big, doesn't have a backing, so I went ahead and I tried to get everything from the auto parts store that you can get online, and this is a mesh, so we're gonna cut this to size and kind of squeak it in there a little bit and see if we can get it as a backing before we use our body filler. And we're gonna use just regular scissors, and I'm gonna kind of cut it hopefully a little bit bigger than what it needs, and we're gonna see if we can kind of squeeze that into there somehow as a backing, since we can't get to the back. So what we came up with is we got a little spring. Now you could use a thread or a fishing line. It kind of works out because you can kind of untwist it. So basically we're going to try to put it through, and then we'll use a little bit of glue with accelerator to hold it in its spot, and then we'll go ahead and tack it down and then see if we can put some Duraglass over it. So we got it in there pretty good. You only need like a dab of this stuff. And then we'll spray some accelerator and then let it sit for a moment. And you can see we got a pretty decent backing now. We're not gonna be able to get any backing on these guys over here. That's the only one that really needs it. You might have some that falls through a little bit, but we'll be able to get it on the second round. So let's go ahead and clean this up, all the excess glue, with a little bit of 80. So we're going to clean off the surface. I'm using a pre-painting prep. You can use any solvent cleaner. We just want to get all the debris off before we use our body filler. So this is what we're going to be using now. As I stated in the beginning of this video, this is only for quick fixes. This is not the 100% correct way, but a lot of you guys in the garage, you don't have the welding. So this is why we're making this video for you guys. So this is metal reinforced filler, okay? So it's kind of like your Duraglass. It's a strong filler, it's waterproof, it's not gonna rust, and it's really, really thick. It's really gonna help patch up that hole, and that's exactly what we're gonna be using. This was about maybe 25 bucks, but hey, it's a lot cheaper than a welder, right? We just took out our body filler and put it on the cardboard. Now they'll tell you not to use cardboard because it's porous, but that's all we got and probably all you have as well. So this is the hardener. They'll tell you to add in a little bit. So that's what we'll do, and we'll work it in. The more you add, the less time you have to work, so kind of be understanding of that. You want to overlap it, okay, not stir it, but bring it back and overlap it. And what that will do is mix it evenly. You know, sometimes with those regular body fillers and the hardeners, you can see when it's uniformly mixed because it will change color. Here, we don't really have that chance just because the hardener is clear. What you're gonna wanna do is push it in. And what we're gonna do on the hole, we're gonna go on the holes first. Okay, now there was some body work here. It's a little bit wavy. It's not too bad, but this will go ahead and help it fill in and smooth out. It actually has good body to it, so it's able to kind of go over. You can see where we had our mesh. See how it completely just holds it? Whereas if we have our holes over here, it kind of doesn't. So we're not too concerned about smoothing it out right here. All we really want is the hole to be filled, okay? So come over to this side, and we'll do the same thing. And then we'll smooth it out. Let's leave it. You can see it'll be a little bit uneven where the hole is. Over here, we'll just smooth it out a touch. You want to smooth it out at the edges because this is where it's going to be most hard to feather it out. And feather is when you have the transition between body filler and metal. Let's leave it alone for now, and then we'll come back and give it a little scuff and a little bit more filler. It's been about maybe 10 minutes since the filler has dried, and we can see it's ready to go just by using our fingernail. So I have here, we have an Ego Abrasives product. It's 80 grit on a roll, and this is a stick it product with a Durablock. So look at, you can see here, this has adhesive on the back. They'll stick here. So basically from here on out, everything is gonna be done pretty much by hand because we wanna ensure that we're sanding it smooth. So if you're coming in over here, all we're gonna do is start to sand it. You can see it's already powdering up. And basically what we want to do here is we want to feather all of our existing body filler into the metal. And if you pan in here, you can see that feathering means that it is all unison. Right now there's an edge at the top. You can see the edge right here. So we want to sand as best we can in a crosshatch pattern. That would mean one way and then another way, like an X. And that will help evenly sand it down and smooth it out much better. Same thing over here. We'll knock down the ridges first. You can see our body work right here. That's where our hole was. You can see kind of the air kind of pushed out the filler a little bit. But it's hard as a rock right now. It's good. So continue to sand this whole area until it's completely flat. Now we're going to switch it up to our 180 and we're going to smooth it out even more. It looks like right now, based off what we're seeing, that metal filler did the job in one pass, and we're going to be ready to move on to a glazing putty as soon as we're done with this sanding here. You can see that we're going ahead and smoothing out all of our edges. See how this is completely feathered? You cannot see a difference. The color of the filler actually resembles metal. It actually makes for a nicer repair. We're ready for glazing putty. So this is the next step. This is a glazing putty. This is very thin, much easier to sand, and pretty much we have a lot of work in this area. So we're gonna go from here to here and filler, and we're gonna sand it all down, and anything that still remains will be any areas that were wavy. So we'll go ahead and mix this up the same way. We're just reversing our other side of our cardboard. We're trying to get away with doing this as cheap as possible. I think we're doing a pretty good job. Most of our tools came out of the garbage. So with this, we're just gonna go halfway through. We won't do any more. We're in hot South Florida, and that is going to dry pretty quick. If you don't put enough, it can crack down the road though. So same way, we're going to just go ahead and overlap it just like this. And this is what I was talking about earlier with the hardener. You can see that this one is colored, and when it's mixed thoroughly, right, it'll be one color. So there shouldn't be any streaks in it. You want to make sure there's no streaks, because if there is, that means it's not mixed properly. You want to keep on overlapping and then spreading it down, getting all of the body filler off the spreader so you don't have any unmixed or uncatalyzed body filler that actually ends up going onto the panel itself. We're good here. We'll start to apply it to the car. When we put it on, we want to go the length of the panel itself. So it's okay if we put it on initially like this. We always want to finish going the length. See how I'm going from left to right instead of up and down? But sometimes you just need to get it on the actual panel itself. And you want to be somewhat quick with this, because before you know it, it will start to kick. So get it all on like I'm doing, and then we're gonna wipe it from left to right as even as we can. The better that we put down this body filler, the less sanding we're gonna have to do, and the more even it will be. You can see just by looking at it, it's gonna be a really nice repair in this area. And on your edges, you can go around with your finger, and this will help smooth out the transition. So when it goes to feather, it's already starting to kick. Oh, we got this in there. This will come, just leave it here, okay, because that will harden up and we pop it right off. So if you have anything like that, just leave it. So we'll let this kick for about a good 10 minutes. I'm sure it'll be plenty dry by then, and then we'll do the same sanding process. It's all dry, so Jeremy has 80 grit on the Durablock. Now, he's not gonna go too crazy, but do you see these ridges from the spreader? He's gonna basically go over the whole thing and just knock it down and make it smooth, so when you touch it, you don't feel any of these ridges. Go ahead, Jeremy. You can see that it completely just annihilates all the ridges so quick with the 80. The reason why you don't want to use 80 all the way through on this is because this is glazing filler. We just want to do a little bit of shaping here of the filler, and then we're going to switch right to 180. So we'll go a little bit more on here, and then we'll switch it up. So this is what it looks like after 80. You can see that we still have some areas that need sanding, but completely all feathered out at the edges.
The ridges are all gone.
The ridges are all gone. You don't feel the difference too much over here. So you're gonna take off your 80. I'm gonna give you 180. But before we do that, we need to remove the 80 grit scratches. And to do that, we have some guide coat. And this is gonna go into all of the 80 grit scratches. It's gonna sink into those scratches. And what Jeremy's gonna do, okay, this is like dust.
That'll show us the high and the low spot.
Right, and it will show you, go ahead and give a little scratch there. It's gonna show you the 80 grit scratches too, because we wanna remove, okay, stop right there. See these scratches right here? These are 80 grit. We don't want those, okay? So we need to refine it. We got a little low spot here, some feathering we still need to do. So go ahead and kick it up with it, 180, and then we'll see what it looks like when it's all done. And after 180, this is what it looks like. So much smoother, all feathered in, looking really good. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna use that guide coat once again, because we wanna remove those 180 grit scratches. And this is gonna be the easiest part to sand, because 320 at this point is just making it smooth for our primer. Now you could stop here, but I prefer to use the 320 because that means it's not gonna shrink when you put the primer on it. And when it does shrink, it's gonna shrink into something very, very, very small, if it does at all. So go ahead and do the same exact thing. And what we're gonna do from this point is remove those 180 grit scratches, and then we'll get this thing all primered up. Now after it's wiped down, we're gonna use some gray etching primer only on the metal areas. And we wanna put it on there to protect it. I already did one layer. And we're not gonna do the body filler areas, that doesn't need it, but this has corrosive properties inside of it to protect that metal. So you should be good to go. We'll let that flash for 10 minutes, and then she'll be good for our primer, which is going to be a more surfacer primer. Now keep in mind this whole truck will get 2K urethane primed, but if you guys are at home, just want to do a quick repair, all with spray cans, this is the way to do it. So it's been 10 minutes and we're ready to use a primer surfacer, and the difference is this can be sanded. This is going to build a lot on this filler here and will allow us to sand for a smooth finish. So we'll go ahead and put one nice thick coat on. We'll let this flash for a good 10 minutes and then we'll put one more coat on. Right there, looking pretty nice, good and nice and flat. Look at no holes. 10 minutes later and it's ready for its second coat. And just like that, there's absolutely no holes. Now, from this point, if you're gonna go ahead and paint this, you allow this to dry a good, I would say, 5 to 6 hours, let it really cure. It's even better if you come back the next day. You could sand this lightly with a 600 grit, and you can use some water to really help smooth it out. And then you can put your paint right on top. And this is all done from home. This probably took about a good 2 hours, and you can see the holes are completely gone. And we did it right here in our driveway. Well, I gotta say, it looks really, really good, and we did it all here in our own driveway. Now, a couple tips and tricks and some things along the way that we learned is when we dug into this, we saw that it had some body work done, and well, there must have been a dent here. This is a Florida car, and seeing rust down here is very, very, very rare. So because of the previous repair and the holes they put into the panel, well, I think that's where the rust initiated from. It would be a good idea if you could put some underproofing behind that, like a rubberized coating. From here, what we could do if you can't gain access is you can drill a hole through the back panel and use a cavity wax. That will help out as well, just to kind of protect it and seal it up. But we are happy that our rust did come from a bad repair and not just rusting out, which is a good sign of good clean metal. Guys, I hope you learned something from this channel, and I hope you learned something from this episode. This is Brian from Paint Society reminding you, don't overthink it.
It's just paint.
I'll see you guys on the next one.